AITA for telling my son he needs to get over us missing his wedding. My son got married a few years ago. He lives on the other side of the country than us. He got a great job opportunity after college, so he moved down. 2 years ago he got married to Jenny, and what I heard, it was a beautiful wedding. So the whole issue started when we were trying to get there. The wedding was on Saturday and our plane left Thursday night. Well, it got delayed and then delayed about 4 more times. Friday morning at this point. And then all the plane got cancelled due to a storm. When that happened, it was clear we were not leaving and driving there would take too long and we would still miss the ceremony. So we informed him and he was pissed. We sent our well wishes and we could FaceTime in if he wanted. He told us no, and we saw a video of his getting married. Now the present day issue, any times we get an argument or he wants us to do something, he pulls up. We missed his wedding card. We were taking over the phone. We were talking about hosting Thanksgiving this year. He got mad saying, "Why won't you visit us?" And I told him we don't have the money for the trip and we just saw him in July. Since it was unclear. Yes, we visited him and went to him. More detail in a comment. We got in an argument and he pulled the "you missed our wedding, it's the least you can do." I told him enough and that he needs to get over it. He called me a jerk. My daughter learned about it as she is on our side, but I don't know. Edit to make it clear in the July part. Also because it has been asked a lot. Yes, we looked into other airports, the planes were grounded also. We are from Maine and the storm was going through our state and then riding down the east coast. We weren't getting a flight, and yes, we looked. It basically blocked travel for 2 days. If we did go down a state or two, we would be following the storm and we wouldn't get a flight. You know what I did when I found out 4 days before my wedding that my father, who was excited to come, was now medically restricted from traveling and couldn't? I spent 2 hours helping my stepmother figure out how to set up a Skype video link so they could watch the ceremony in real time, with an extra phone audio connection because we found Skype audio wouldn't work on their computer. For unknown reasons. The camera for the Skype was set right next to the altar so they could see couple and officiant. And the phone for audio was on the altar so they could hear nearly everything. NTA. It was an act of God. He needs to get over it. Especially if he didn't do a damn thing to make alternate plans for live streaming for you. NTA if all of the cross-country flights were cancelled due to weather and you'd planned on being there a full day and a half ahead of time, then you made what any reasonable person would consider a good faith effort to be there. Plane tickets and wedding plans are usually made months in advance, well before any potential weather issues would arise. I'm sure that Op wasn't the only one unable to get across the country. It sucks and is understandably upsetting to the son whose wedding is missed. But it is what it is. NTA. You booked flights a few days in advance. You didn't just book one for the morning of the ceremony and hope for the best. I understand he's upset, but you don't control the weather or the airlines. What did he realistically expect you to do that you didn't? You missed it. It's done. You've apologized. Yes, he can be sad you missed it, but to blame you and bring it up repeatedly is missing the mark. This reminds me of that scene in The Devil Wears Prada where Miranda wants Andy to get her a plane out of Miami during a hurricane. Just like in the movie. It is what it is. Sometimes Mother Nature makes fools of us all. I can see your son feeling disappointed. But to be angry at you, especially years later, is not fair. NTA. NTA. It sounds like you and your husband made all reasonable efforts to get there and it just wasn't going to happen. Personally, I would have still drove to at least have gotten to the reception and celebrate, but that's just me. That being said, that's a big milestone moment you missed and it's going to take time for him to get over it. But it's not fair for him to use it as a weapon against you and your spouse anytime things don't go his way. He needs to find a way to make peace with the situation without lording it over you for all of time. NTA. How can he blame you? What does he think you should have done differently? Baffled by the YTA comments. You had a perfect storm of events to miss and he's being a baby about it years later. Easy NTA. I'm struck by a grown married son, living away from his parents, regularly getting into arguments with those parents. It seems that those lives would be separate enough that there wouldn't be much to argue about. My phrasing seems to point to the son, but it could be either, both directions. Aside from that oddity, NTA for missing the wedding. Info. What is your relationship with your daughter like versus your son's? Why was he asking that you come down to visit a second time in the past few months? What's the context on requesting that you visit? Edit. NTA. Info. When you say you saw him in July, was that him coming to you or you going to him? NTA. You missed it for reasons outside of your control. There was literally nothing you could have done in that situation. I don't think you were to blame. These things happen. You didn't plan to show up on the morning of the wedding. You planned in a cushion, which would be fine for most emergencies. But a storm that cancels all flights for that long is difficult to plan for. On the other hand, I do feel for your son. Presumably you aren't in any of the wedding pictures or anything, which is a bummer for him. It sounds like he is unhappy in his location and wants more support from you. The fact that he lives near his wife's family, but doesn't like them, is problematic, as he spends a lot more time with them than with his own support system. I'll also say, assuming you are in the USA, that in my experience, people who grew up on the East Coast and those who grew up on the West have different cultures and find it difficult to live on the opposite side of the country than where they grew up. I'm an East Coaster who has visited the West Coast, and I can understand that feeling of things feeling out of place. Likewise, I've known West Coasters who had to move east for work, and they always missed the West Coast and eventually went back west. In this situation, even though you were not at fault for missing the wedding, I would use any complaints he makes as a way to get to the deeper issue of him taking the steps he needs to take to be happy. Has he mentioned his unhappiness to his wife? What was her take on it? Was she open to changing things? Maybe moving somewhere he'd be happy, looking for new jobs, etc. Also, do they spend too much time with her family, and is she willing to reduce that time? Or does her family's wishes take precedence over his, leading him to feel lonely and minimized in his own life? If so, then is he standing up for himself to change things? And if not, then why not? And can your moral support help him do that? NTA. I'm sure he's upset, but you tried. You can't control the weather, and it got delayed multiple times before ultimately being cancelled. You did the smart thing trying to come in a few days early, but you can't control the weather. NTA. You can't control the weather, and he can't hold this over your head forever. NTA. What was your relationship like before this? Seems like son is extra mad for something out of your control. However, have you had a history of promising to be somewhere or do something for him and it just never seemed to happen? Or maybe you didn't like the wife at one point and your son is taking this extra personal? On its face it seems like son is overreacting, but at least with my family, the fight is never really about what it looks like it's about. There's almost always underlying issues. Or it could be son is just unforgiving and is holding a childish grudge. Info. What did you do to celebrate your son's nuptials after you couldn't attend the wedding? NTA. You didn't skip the wedding. Weather prevented your arrival. It's a bit late to do it, but the first time he tried to pull the "you missed my wedding" card, I would have said, "Yeah, we are pretty pissed at you about that, but we try to forgive you for the fact that your choice to move so far away caused the situation that lead us to miss it." Edited to add, some people are taking this comment a bit literally. I am saying that since the son is being unreasonable in blaming the parents for things that are out of their control, the parents could easily have made a similarly unreasonable statement of blame as a way to illustrate to their son how useless and unfair such blame is. NTA. You intended to be there a whole day in advance. In time, I assume, for the rehearsal dinner. Nothing wrong with your plan. Flights were cancelled due to a storm. They call that an act of God when it comes to contracts. All of you missed you being at the wedding. You were as much a victim of circumstance as they were. He does, indeed, need to get over it. A part of me wonders if this is Jenny talking though, assuming she doesn't have roots in your area. NTA. My guy needs to get over it. Based on the title, it could have gone either way, but you made every attempt to get there. There isn't anything you could have done short of building the transporter from the Starship Enterprise. Infos. 1. What was the weather event? Was it a hurricane that was predicted in advance and you just took a chance that it would work out? Or was it a freak thing? 2. Where was the wedding? 3. Did other people miss the wedding for the same reasons?
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Aircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.